The shuttle docked at Harmony Prime with a soft hiss of pressure seals. Moore grabbed her bag and stood up. She was 16 years old, average height, with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She looked ordinary. She looked like any other human teenager from the American Midwest, but she was about to become something else entirely. She was about to become the first human student at the Galactic Academy of Sciences. The station was enormous. Walked through the boarding tube and into a corridor that stretched so far she could not see the end. Beings of every shape and size moved around her. Some walked on two legs like her. Others floated. Others crawled on many limbs. The air smelled strange, filtered and recycled 1,000 times, carrying traces of chemicals her nose did not recognize. A small drone floated toward her and beeped. Moore, human, Earth, follow for registration. She followed the drone through winding hallways until she reached an administrative office. Inside, a crystalline being sat behind a desk. It looked like a person made of glass, with light pulsing gently inside its transparent body. The nameplate on the desk read Administrator. "Welcome to Galactic Academy," said. The voice came from somewhere inside the crystal body, soft and musical. "You are our first human student. This is a significant moment for diplomatic relations between Earth and the Galactic Union." Nodded, "Thank you for the opportunity. You will be assigned to Cohort 12. Your classes begin tomorrow. Do you have questions?" Had many questions. She had questions about the food and the sleeping arrangements and the other students and 100 other things. But she had learned a long time ago that the best way to understand a new place was to watch and listen. So she simply said, "No, I will figure things out." Internal light flickered in what might have been approval. "Very well. Your room assignment and schedule have been sent to your tablet. Good luck, Moore." Her room was small but comfortable. A bed designed for a human body, a desk with a terminal, a window that looked out at the stars, sat on the bed and took a deep breath. She was alone. She was millions of miles from Earth. She was surrounded by species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years while humans were still figuring out fire. And tomorrow, she would walk into a classroom full of aliens who had never met a human before. She was terrified, but she was also excited. This was why she had applied for the exchange program. This was why she had trained for 2 years, learning alien languages and customs and protocols. She wanted to see the galaxy. She wanted to learn. She wanted to show everyone that humans belonged out here among the stars. The next morning found her way to instructor's classroom. The room was large and circular, with seats arranged in rising tiers around a central platform. About 24 students were already there, talking in small groups. They fell silent when walked in. She felt their eyes on her, curious eyes, suspicious eyes, confused eyes. She kept her expression neutral and found an empty seat near the middle of the room. A bird-like creature with blue and silver feathers sat down next to her. "Hello, you are the human, yes?" "Yes, I am." Made a chirping sound that's translator interpreted as friendly laughter. "I have read about your world. It sounds terrifying, so much water, so many predators, and your gravity is so strong. How do you survive?" Smiled a little, "We manage." Instructor entered the room. The professor was tall and with 4 arms and compound eyes that seemed to look everywhere at once. "Good morning, students. I see we have a new addition to our cohort, Moore from Earth, the first human to attend this academy." Every eye in the room turned to again. She gave a small wave. "Earth is classified as a Class 7, continued. "One of the most hostile environments known to produce sapient life. I expect you all to treat our human colleague with respect and curiosity. She has much to teach us and much to learn." A hissing sound came from the back of the room. Turned and saw a group of tall, scaled beings. They looked like lizards that had evolved to walk upright, with long snouts and cold yellow eyes. One of them, larger than the others, was staring with obvious contempt. Said, a warning in the professor's voice. "Do you have something to add?" The large-scaled being leaned back in his seat. "No, instructor. I was simply wondering why we are wasting time on primitive species when there is real science to learn." Some students laughed nervously. Others looked uncomfortable, said nothing. She simply turned back to face the front of the room and waited for the lesson to begin. After class, walked to the cafeteria. He is. His father is some important trade minister. He thinks he is better than everyone. "I noticed," said. "He has made trouble for other students before. Students who are different. Students who do not fit in. You should be careful." Collected her food, a pace that her tablet assured her was safe for human consumption. It tasted like nothing. She ate it anyway. "I did not come here to make trouble. I came here to learn." "Yes, but may not give you that choice." Looked across the cafeteria, sat with two other, both slightly smaller than him. They were watching her and talking quietly among themselves. When saw looking, he made a gesture with his clawed hand. The translator did not interpret it, but the meaning was clear enough. It was not friendly. "Let him watch," said. She finished her food and stood up. "I have another class to get to." That night sat in her room and reviewed her notes. Her tablet buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown sender. The message contained a single image, a human skull with the words "Go home" written beneath it. Deleted the message. She did not report it. She had dealt with bullies before, on Earth, in schools, in neighborhoods. The pattern was always the same. They pushed until they got a reaction. If you did not react, sometimes they got bored and stopped. Sometimes they pushed harder. Either way, reacting only made things worse. She would not react. She would go to class. She would do her work. She would learn everything she could. And she would show everyone at this academy that humans were not primitive. Humans were not weak. Humans were patient. Humans were adaptable. Humans had survived a world that killed almost everything else. If wanted to test her, that was his choice, but had been tested by things far more dangerous than a wealthy lizard with a bad attitude. She had grown up on Earth. She had hiked through forests filled with predators. She had swum in oceans that could crush the pressure seals of most alien ships. She had breathed air thick with oxygen and bacteria and pollen that would kill half the species in this station. She was and did not break easily. Turned off her tablet and went asleep. Tomorrow was another day. She would face it like she faced everything else, one step at a time. 2 weeks passed at Galactic Academy, attended every class. She completed every assignment. She asked questions when she did not understand something and listened carefully when the instructors explained. She was not the student in her cohort. Some of the species around her had brains 3 times the size of hers, with processing power that made human thought look slow and clumsy, but worked harder than anyone else. She stayed up late studying. She woke up early to review. She refused to fall behind. And every single day found a new way to remind her that she did not belong. It started small, comments in the hallway, whispers loud enough for her to hear. See how she sweats. Her body cannot even regulate its own temperature. Laughter from his 2 followers, Dorn, and walked past them without responding. Then it got worse. One morning found her seat in instructor's class covered in a sticky substance that smelled like rotting fruit. She cleaned it off without complaint and sat down. Watched her from across the room, waiting for a reaction. She gave him nothing. A few days later, someone bumped into her in the corridor. Hard. She stumbled and dropped her tablet. When she picked it up, the screen was cracked. She looked up and saw Dorn walking away, not even bothering to look back. Helped her to her feet. "You have to report this," said. "This is harassment. The academy has rules." "I will handle it," said. She did report it. She went to administrator's office and explained everything. The anonymous messages, the sabotaged seat, the damaged tablet, listened with that strange crystalline face showing no expression. "I will look into this matter," said. "However, I must remind you that accusations against students from prominent families require substantial evidence. The consortium is an important partner of the Galactic Union. We must be careful not to create diplomatic incidents. Understood. She was one human. Family had power and money and connections. The Academy would not act unless forced to. She thanked for listening and returned to her classes. The harassment continued. Started a rumor that humans were barely sapient, that Earth's classification as a civilized world was a mistake. Some students believed it. Others did not, but they stayed quiet anyway. Nobody wanted to get involved. Nobody wanted to make enemies of the was the only one who stood by. The bird-like alien sat with her at meals and walked with her between classes. "Why do you not fight back?" asked one evening. "You are from a, surely you could hurt them if you wanted to." Shook her head. "Violence does not solve anything. It only makes things worse. If I attack, I prove everything he says about humans, that we are savage, that we are dangerous, that we do not belong in civilized space. But you are suffering. I have suffered worse." It was true, had grown up in a small town in Ohio. She had been the weird kid, the one who spent all her time reading about space and aliens and dreaming of the stars. Other kids had made fun of her. Some had been cruel. She had learned to endure. She had learned that bullies fed on reactions, on fear, on anger. Take those away and they eventually lost interest. But was not losing interest. He was getting more frustrated. Every day that refused to break was a day that made him angrier. She was supposed to be weak. She was supposed to be primitive. She was supposed to crumble under his pressure and prove that humans did not deserve a place among the stars. Instead, she just kept going. Quiet, steady, unbreakable. One afternoon, was studying in the common area when approached her table. Dorn and flanked him on either side. Other students in the area suddenly found reasons to be elsewhere. "Human," said, his voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "I have been thinking about your species. Do you know what I have concluded?" Did not look up from her tablet. "I am studying. I have concluded that humans are not predators at all. You have forward-facing eyes and flat teeth, but that means nothing. You are scavengers, parasites. You survived on your by hiding and eating scraps left by real predators." Continued reading. Slammed his clawed hand on the table. The sound was loud and sharp. Did not flinch. She looked up at him slowly, her expression calm. "You do not scare me," hissed. "You are nothing. Your entire species is nothing. You came to this academy thinking you could prove something, but all you have proven is that humans are cowards who cannot even defend themselves." Held his gaze. Yellow reptilian eyes stared into brown human eyes. Neither looked away. "Are you finished?" asked. Scales flushed darker, a sign of anger in his species. "I will make you regret coming here. I will make you wish you had stayed on your garbage planet." He turned and walked away. Dornan followed, but not before leaned close and whispered, "Soon." Rushed over after they left. "Are you okay?" That was terrifying. Picked up her tablet and resumed studying. It was just words. "He threatened you." "He has been threatening me for 2 weeks. Words cannot hurt me." But knew that was done with words. She had seen it in his eyes, the frustration, the anger, the wounded pride. He had expected her to break by now. He had expected her to cry or fight or run away. Her refusal to do any of those things was driving him crazy. He would escalate. He would push harder. He would find some way to force a confrontation that she could not walk away from. It was inevitable now. That night did not study. She sat in her room and thought about what was coming. She had options. She could request a transfer out of Cohort 12. She could ask to return to Earth. She could go to again and beg for protection. But all of those options meant giving up. All of them meant proving right. Humans cannot handle it. Humans do not belong here. Humans are weak. She refused to prove him right. Had not come millions of miles from home just to run away from a bully. She had not trained for 2 years just to quit at the first sign of trouble. She was here to represent humanity. She was here to show the galaxy what her species was made of. not through violence, not through aggression, but through endurance, through patience, through the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. If wanted to break her, he was welcome to try, but he had no idea what he was dealing with. He had read the data files. He knew Earth was but he did not understand what that meant. He did not understand that every human alive was the descendant of survivors. Every human carried the genes of ancestors who had outlasted ice ages and plagues and famines and wars. Humans did not give up. It was not in their nature. Took a deep breath and made a decision. She would not start a fight, but if forced one, she would finish it. She went to sleep. Tomorrow was another day. The morning started like any other. Woke up, ate breakfast, and walked to instructor's classroom. The topic for today was comparative planetary biology, specifically a lecture on apex predators across different world classifications. Found her usual seat, sat beside her. The room filled with students. Arrived late. He walked in with Dorn and behind him, all three of them moving with a confidence that made instincts tighten. Something was different today. Something was about to happen. She could feel it. Instructor began the lecture. Today we will examine how different planetary conditions produce different types of apex predators. On low-gravity worlds, we see large flying hunters. On high-gravity worlds, we see dense muscular ground predators. On aquatic worlds, we see streamlined swimmers with incredible speed and power. The lesson continued, showed images of predators from dozens of worlds, massive winged creatures from gas giants, armored beasts from heavy metal planets, sleek killers from ocean worlds. Took notes and tried to ignore the feeling of being watched. Now, said, let us discuss. These are planets with such hostile conditions that survival itself is remarkable. The predators on these worlds are unlike anything else in the galaxy. They must be stronger, faster, and more adaptable than predators anywhere else. Otherwise, they simply die. Raised a clawed hand. Instructor, what about Earth? It is classified as what kind of predators does it produce? His compound eyes shifted toward. An excellent question. Earth has produced many apex predators. Large felines, canines, bears, sharks, crocodiles. But the most successful predator on Earth is, of course, the human. Humans? Made a sound of disbelief. Instructor, surely that cannot be correct. Humans are small, they have no claws, no fangs, no armor. How can they be apex predators? Humans are persistent hunters, explained. They do not overpower their prey with strength or speed. They track it. They follow it. They chase it until it collapses from exhaustion. No other species in the galaxy hunts this way. It requires extraordinary endurance and intelligence. Stood up. The movement was slow and deliberate. With respect, instructor, I think the classification is wrong. Look at the human in this room. Does she look like an apex predator to you? She is soft. She sweats constantly. She cannot even digest half the food in the cafeteria. Humans are not predators. They are prey animals pretending to be something they are not. The classroom went quiet. Everyone was watching now, kept her eyes forward, her hands flat on her desk. That is enough, said. Sit down. No, walked down the aisle towards seat. His yellow eyes never left her. I want to understand. I want to know why the Galactic Union is wasting resources on a species that clearly does not belong in civilized space. I am warning you. What will you do, instructor? Report me. My father has more influence than this entire academy. Nothing will happen to me. He stopped right next to his desk. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, and he looked down at her with open contempt. Stand up, human. Did not move. I said stand up. His voice rose. Or are you too afraid? Is this the courage of the mighty, sitting in silence while a superior species tells them the truth? Made a small, frightened sound. Other students looked away. Nobody wanted to be involved. Nobody wanted to draw attention. Finally looked up at him. Her face was calm. Her eyes were steady. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but clear enough for everyone to hear. Sit down now. I will not ask again. Laughed. It was an ugly sound full of mockery. Did you hear that? The prey animal is giving orders. How amusing. He leaned closer, his snout just inches from her face. What will you do if I refuse, cry, run away, beg for mercy? I am asking you to sit down. And I am telling you that you are nothing. Your species is nothing. Your planet is a garbage heap that produces garbage creatures. You do not belong here. You never will. He reached toward her, his clawed hand aimed for the collar of her uniform. He meant to grab her. He meant to lift her out of her seat and humiliate her in front of everyone. He wanted her to scream. He wanted her to fight back so he could claim self-defense. He wanted to break her once and for all. His hand never reached her. Moved, her right hand shot up and caught his wrist. At the same time, she stood and twisted, using his own momentum against him. In one smooth motion, she bent his arm behind his back and pushed him face down onto her desk. The whole thing took less than 2 seconds. The classroom gasped. Struggled. He was bigger than her. He was stronger than her, at least by the standards of his own world. But's grip was like iron. Her muscles, dense and powerful from a lifetime on a high-gravity planet, held him in place without apparent effort. "Let go of me," snarled. "Let go or I will kill you." Leaned close to his ear. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. "You were warned." Dorn and rushed forward. They were going to help their leader. They were going to attack the human who dared to touch her. Released and turned to face them. She did not raise her fists. She did not take a fighting stance. She simply stood there, balanced and ready, her eyes tracking both of them at once. They stopped. Something in their predator brains, something old and primitive and impossible to ignore, recognized what they were looking at. This was not a prey animal. This was not a soft, weak creature waiting to be killed. This was the product of a world that killed everything not strong enough to survive. This was a persistence hunter, an endurance predator, a creature whose ancestors had chased prey to death and fought off wolves and bears and lions with nothing but rocks and sticks. Was not afraid. That was the most terrifying thing. She was not afraid of them at all. The classroom was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even instructor stood frozen at the front of the room. Pushed himself up from the desk. His arm hung at an awkward angle. Had not broken it, but she had come close. He stared at her with hatred and something else. Something that looked almost like fear. Met his gaze. "I came here to learn. I filed complaints through proper channels. I followed every rule. I gave you every chance to stop." She paused. "I warned you. I will not warn you again." She sat back down in her seat. She picked up her tablet. She looked at instructor. "I apologize for the interruption," she said. "Please continue the lesson." Stood in stunned silence for a long moment. Then the instructor slowly nodded. "Yes, of course. Where were we?" And his followers retreated to their seats. The other students stared at with new eyes. Nobody whispered. Nobody laughed. The only sound was voice continuing the lecture as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Everyone in that room understood now. The human had held back. For weeks she had endured insults and threats and harassment, and she had held back. Not because she was weak. Not because she was afraid, but because she had chosen to. That choice was over now, had pushed too far. He had forced her hand, and in 10 seconds she had shown them all what it could do. The lesson ended. Students filed out in silence. Nobody looked at directly, but everyone was thinking about her, about what she had done, about what she could have done. Stayed behind. That was incredible. Packed her bag. That was necessary. What happens now? Looked toward the door where it disappeared. Now we see if he learned his lesson. The news spread through Galactic Academy like fire through dry grass. By the end of the day, every student on Harmony Prime had heard some version of what happened in instructor's classroom. The human girl, the bully, 10 seconds, that was all it took. Spent the rest of the day in her room. She did not hide. She simply had no reason to go anywhere else. Her classes were done and she had studying to do, but the isolation gave her time to think about what had happened and what would come next. She had not wanted to hurt, she had not wanted to reveal what she was capable of. For 3 weeks she had done everything possible to avoid confrontation. She had filed complaints. She had ignored insults. She had walked away from every provocation. But there were limits. When reached for her, when he tried to put his hands on her without consent, he crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. A message appeared on her tablet. It was from administrator. Report to my office immediately. Walked through quiet corridors. Students she passed moved out of her way. Some stared. Others avoided eye contact entirely. She had become something new in their minds, not just the human, not just the something else, something they did not have a word for yet. His office was crowded when arrived. The crystalline administrator sat behind the desk. Instructor stood to one side, and in the corner, looking furious, stood with his arm in a medical brace. Dorn and flanked him as always. Moore said, "You have been accused of assaulting a fellow student. What do you have to say?" Stood straight. I defended myself, attempted to grab me without consent. I stopped him using minimal force. Minimal force, snarled. You nearly broke my arm. If I wanted to break your arm, I would have. The room went cold. Scales flushed dark with anger, but there was something else in his yellow eyes now. Uncertainty. He had felt her strength. He knew she was not bluffing. His internal light flickered. This is a serious matter. The consortium has filed a formal complaint. They are demanding your immediate expulsion. I understand, said, but I would like to present my side. Please do. Pulled up her tablet and projected a document onto the wall. This is a record of every harassment complaint I filed over the past 3 weeks. 12 complaints in total. Vandalism, threats, physical intimidation, damaged property. She scrolled through the list. None of them were acted upon. Shifted uncomfortably. These matters were under investigation. With respect, administrator, no investigation took place. I was told repeatedly that accusations against prominent families required substantial evidence. I provided evidence. Nothing changed. Lowered the tablet. Today, in front of 20 witnesses, publicly insulted my species, called my garbage, and attempted to physically assault me. Instructor saw everything. All eyes turned to. The professor made a clicking sound that the translator interpreted as discomfort. The student's account is accurate. I witnessed approach Moore's desk, make threatening statements, and reach for her person. She responded with what appeared to be a defensive maneuver. She attacked me, insisted. She stopped you from touching her, corrected. There is a difference. Was silent for a long moment. The administrator's crystalline body pulsed with light, a sign of deep thought. This situation is complicated. Diplomatic relations must be considered. May I speak freely? Asked. You may. I came to this academy as a representative of humanity. I was told that I would be treated fairly, that I would have the same rights and protections as any other student. For 3 weeks, I have been harassed without consequence. Today, I defended myself for the first time, and now I face expulsion. She paused. If this is how the Galactic Union treats its members, then perhaps the Union is not what it claims to be. The words hung in the air. His light flickered rapidly. Looked like he wanted to attack again but did not dare. This hearing is suspended, finally said. I must consult with higher authorities. More, you are confined to your quarters until further notice. You and your associates will also remain in your quarters. No contact between any parties. Understood. Everyone nodded, walked back to her room. She was not surprised when another message arrived 2 hours later. This one was different. It came through official Earth diplomatic channels. Someone important was coming. The next morning, a human shuttle docked at Harmony Prime. Watched from her window as a woman in a crisp uniform walked through the boarding tube. She was tall, with short gray hair and a face that suggested she had seen many things and been impressed by very few of them. Her name badge read Commander Laura, Diplomatic. An hour later was summoned to Administrator's office again. This time Commander was there, so was, and his followers were absent. Miss Moore said. Her voice was calm and professional. I have reviewed the situation. I have examined your complaint records, the witness statements, and the security footage from the classroom. Waited. You showed remarkable restraint. Looked at. Administrator, I want to make something very clear. This young woman could have killed, she chose not to. Slight pulsed with confusion. Killed him, she is half his size. She is from Earth. Pulled up her own projection. Data scrolled across the wall. Humans can run continuously for hours. We heal from injuries that would be fatal to most species. Our immune systems fight off pathogens that would kill in days. And our muscles, evolved for a world with gravity 30% higher than galactic standard, are denser and stronger than they appear. She highlighted a specific section. The maneuver Miss Moore used is called a joint lock. It is designed to control an opponent without causing permanent injury. If she had applied slightly more pressure, she would have shattered every bone in his arm. If she had struck him instead of restrained him, she could have crushed his windpipe or fractured his skull. Stared at the data. Why did she not fight back sooner? Why endure weeks of harassment? Because humans do not seek violence, said. We are capable of tremendous destruction, but we prefer peace. Miss Moore followed your rules. She filed complaints. She tried to resolve this through proper channels. Only when all other options failed, only when she was physically threatened with no escape did she act, and even then she used minimal force. Turn 2, you did well. You represented humanity exactly as we hoped. Nodded. She did not feel proud. She felt tired. What happens now? Asked. Now we negotiate, said. The consortium will be informed that their complaint has no merit, and his associates will be removed from this academy, and Miss Moore will continue her education without further harassment. The consortium will not accept this. They will accept it, or they will explain to the Galactic Union why they are protecting a student who assaulted a diplomatic representative of a new member species. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Humans are very good at negotiation, Administrator, almost as good as we are at surviving. The meeting ended, and his followers were gone within 48 hours. No formal charges were filed against anyone. The incident was quietly buried in diplomatic files that most people would never see. Life at Galactic Academy returned to normal, mostly. 1 week after his departure, sat in her usual seat in instructor's classroom. The topic today was communication, but nobody was really paying attention to the lecture. They were too busy watching. She pretended not to notice. She took notes. She asked questions when something was unclear. She was exactly the same student she had been since the first day, quiet, studious, unremarkable, but nothing would ever be the same again. After class, walked with her through the corridor. The bird-like alien had not left side since the incident. Whether out of loyalty or fascination or some combination of both, had become her constant companion. Can I ask you something? Said. You can ask. Why did you hold back for so long? You could have stopped on the first day. You could have shown everyone what you were capable of. Why did you let him torment you for weeks? Thought about the question as they walked. It was a fair question. She had asked it herself many times. On Earth, we have a saying, the most dangerous predators are the ones who do not need to prove it. Made a confused chirping sound. I do not understand. Wanted me to fight. He wanted me to lose control. If I had attacked him on the first day, he would have won. Not the fight, but everything else. He would have proven that humans are savage and violent and cannot be trusted. Every fear that other species have about would have been confirmed. They reached the cafeteria, collected her food and found a table near the window, sat across from her. So you endured the harassment to prove a point. I endured the harassment because fighting was not the right choice. I tried everything else first: complaints, diplomacy, patience. Only when nothing else worked, only when he left me no other option did I act. Ate a bite of her food paste. And even then I used the minimum force necessary. I did not hurt him. I stopped him. His feathers ruffled in what had learned was a sign of deep thought. You were teaching a lesson. I was showing the truth. Humans are not violent by nature. We do not seek conflict. But when conflict is forced upon us, we end it quickly and decisively. Looked around the cafeteria. Other students were watching them, pretending not to. That is what makes us dangerous, not our strength, not our endurance, our restraint. Your restraint. Any creature can be violent. Violence is easy. What is hard is choosing not to be violent when you have every reason and every ability to cause harm. Humans have been doing that for thousands of years. We fight when we must. We stop when we can. We build more than we destroy. Was quiet for a long moment. I think I understand. You wanted them to see that humans are not monsters. I wanted them to see that humans are people, complicated, capable of both great kindness and great destruction, but ultimately choosing kindness whenever possible. Finished her food. That is the message I came here to deliver, not with words, with actions. That evening was summoned to administrator's office one more time. This meeting was different. There were no accusations, no angry, just an instructor and a holographic transmission from Commander, who had returned to her station elsewhere in the system. Miss Moore began. The administrator's crystalline form seemed softer somehow, less rigid than before. I owe you an apology. Was surprised but kept her expression neutral. Administrator. I failed you. When you came to me with complaints, I dismissed them. I prioritized diplomatic convenience over your safety, and that was wrong. Internal light dimmed. I have been reviewing Earth's history. Your species has endured so much. Wars, plagues, environmental disasters, yet you continue to reach for the stars. You continue to seek connection with other species. I did not appreciate how remarkable that is. Thank you, said, but I did not come here looking for apologies. I came here to learn. And you will, Slight brightened. I am personally guaranteeing that your remaining time at this academy will be peaceful and productive. Any student who harasses you will face immediate consequences. No exceptions. No delays. Clicked in agreement. I have also revised my curriculum. Next semester, I will be teaching a unit on Earth ecology and human biology. I believe the other students could benefit from understanding your species better. His holographic image smiled. Well done, Miss Moore. You have made humanity proud. I just did what felt right. That is exactly the point. Nodded. Get some rest. You have earned it. The transmission ended. Walked back to her room through corridors that no longer felt hostile. Students she passed nodded at her or offered small greetings. They were still uncertain, still curious, still a little afraid. But they were also respectful. They had seen what was capable of. More importantly, they had seen what she chose not to do. That night knocked on's door. The bird-like alien held a small package wrapped in shimmering paper. What is this? Asked. A gift from it is a friendship token. We give them to people we respect and admire. Held it out. I wanted you to have it. Unwrapped the package. Inside was a small crystal sphere, swirling with colors that shifted and changed as she turned it. It was beautiful. Thank you, this means a lot. You are my friend, the first real friend I have made at this academy. I am glad you came here. Smiled, me too. After left, sat by her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her family, her entire species still taking its first steps into a vast and complicated galaxy. They would face more challenges. They would encounter more species who doubted them, who feared them, who underestimated them. That was inevitable. But they would endure. They would adapt. They would prove themselves through patience and determination and the quiet strength that came from surviving a world that tried to kill them every single day. Was just one girl, one student at one academy on one station in an infinite universe, but she had shown the galaxy something important. She had shown them what humanity truly was, not savage, not primitive, not weak, but something far more remarkable, a species that could fight but chose not to, a species that could destroy but chose to build, a species that looked at the impossible and said, "We will find a way." That was the human spirit. That was what made them in the truest sense, not the strength of their bodies, not the resilience of their biology, but the unbreakable determination of their hearts. Placed gift on her desk and opened her tablet. Tomorrow was another day, more classes, more learning, more opportunities to show the galaxy what humans could do. She was ready. The girl had warned them once. 10 seconds later, the classroom went silent. But in the weeks and months and years that followed, something else happened. The galaxy began to listen. And what they heard was the sound of humanity reaching for the stars, one patient step at a time. This was just the beginning.